Well, in the spring the green herons returned. Evidently, somewhere around the pond or in the nearby marsh, they settled down to raise a successful nest of green heronlings. By the second week of July, those heronlings fledged and could be found exploring the pond, learning to fend for themselves and having the occasional tussle. They really seemed to enjoy each other's company, calling back and forth across the pond and chasing each other from one tree to the next. It was fun to quietly sit by the pond's edge, just behind some foliage, or out on the dock to observe, photograph, and film their behaviors.
Look, there's 3 fledglings, green heron fledglings out there.
With so many green herons running about, I wasn't quite sure where to point the camera, which one to focus on. So my apologies if I'm a little bit all over the place. Oh, and it wasn't just these 3. It turns out just over in the brush, there was a 4th one hiding. You'll see that one soon. I do have some trouble telling the juveniles apart from the adults, but one of the things that I look for is on the crown of the green heron's head, as if there's like little white fluffy downy feathers, then to me that tells me it's a juvenile. Plus, if it's a bit smaller, then that would also be a juvenile, as the adults are a little bigger and they're more smooth on top. They don't have that white down sticking out. Oh, they're so cute. And their movements are so quick. They'll just sit still for a long, long, long period of time. And I actually edited a lot of that time out. Otherwise, this would be like 2 or 3 hours long, where they'll just sit there completely motionless. and then all of a sudden they'll just move. They'll strike down and grab a bug or a fish out of the water, just super quick. And I think it's kind of neat the way the green heron moves, or they'll move just a little bit, stop, just a little bit more, stop, and then look around. And I noticed, especially when the juveniles are together and the parents are off hunting, if another bird flies over or the parent calls from further away down the pond, they'll all like raise up their necks and look, and it's all in unison. Every single little tiny movement is perfectly in unison when that happens. It's completely synchronized. It's cool to see. Ah, I see a bit of white fluff at the top of this green heron's head. This must be a juvenile. I believe all four of the green herons that I kept seeing at the end of the pond were juveniles, probably all sisters and brothers hanging out together. I think typically they're usually fairly solitary animals, but at this point, mom and dad were probably still feeding them or had just trying to wean them. So they're probably grouped together in competition. So when mom or dad shows up, I gotta be the first one to get the food. I never did see mom or dad show up though. So yeah, spoiler alert on that one. These guys were definitely trying to fend for themselves. And I didn't see any fighting between them, like one trying to steal the food that somebody else had, because when they strike, it's so fast and they just immediately swallow whatever it is they have. There's no chance for anything to be stolen. I did notice that, so that's a big difference between them and a lot of the other birds that I have uh, shown on this channel. Can you spot the green heron in all this thick vegetation? Well, their coloration gives them the ability to be masters of camouflage. But the number one thing that gives these guys away is when they actually move. So their ability to hold still for long periods of time probably helps to keep them safe from predators. But if they move, we can find them. And look how beautiful this bird is in the sunlight. And these flight photos that actually came out, I am amazed, surprised, shocked. I didn't think they would turn out, being that there was so much, even though I was focused on the bird, there was so much behind it that the camera could have refocused on. But I managed to stay steady. I was just mind blown. That's awesome. And here we are back on the perches at the end of the pond. Yeah, good shake. It's so cute. Yeah, I'm probably a crazy lady, but small things amuse me, I guess. Well, big things amuse me too, because I do like watching the great blue heron, and that's a big bird, especially when compared to the green heron. So we've got these two on the perches. Oh, here comes another little bit of sibling rivalry. And is there another one flying in? I can't remember. Well, maybe not. Maybe part of the reason they're still grouped together as juveniles is in a way to protect each other from predators, because they can all have each other's backs. And at some point, they did all disperse to be out on their own. I went for a walk down to the park about end of August by myself. Well, no, it was early September. And as I was walking around the pond, I heard one of them call out. I happened to look up, and I swear it was just sitting there saying hello to me. And I said hello back, and then I stopped and I looked around and was like, oh boy, everybody thinks I'm crazy. But I guess they might have gotten used to me coming down and just sitting quiet and filming them. No, or maybe it's just all in my imagination. But that was pretty cool because right about the time I was walking right under the little green heron. It said hello, well, in its own language, of course. I noticed that there is some pretty significant size differences between this batch of green herons. They typically have a clutch between 2 and 7, average more like 3 to 5 eggs when they lay. And they're not like turtles who'll just sit there and like drop all their eggs at once. Evidently, with green herons, they will lay one egg every 2 to 3 days. So that might tell the difference in the difference in the sizes. Plus, there's also got to consider the nutrition of each bird. The strongest will probably get the most because they wrestle with mom and dad to get what they need. And the smaller bird will have received the least amount of food. There was also a lot of preening going on these uh, branches at the end of the pond. They sure like to keep clean, and that's a good thing in order to keep those birds good and healthy. I get a real kick out of the way that these birds are laying on the perches. It kind of reminds me of Snoopy on his doghouse, or my old dog Skip. He had one of those pointed roof dog houses like Snoopy did from the Peanuts. But they look perfectly relaxed. Well, I guess it makes it easy for them to just kind of dip their head down real quick and grab a snack. This heron is held still for so long. I wondered if perhaps it fell asleep or was in love with its own reflection. It eventually moved and its head would dart out, so it was just very cautiously waiting for a bug or a small fish to come by the spot where he was and grab a tasty treat. In the early spring, before all the foliage begins to spurt out, you can often see the painted turtles hanging out in the same spot where this green heron is preening. I spend a lot of time waiting in anticipation for these animals to, do something cool or for the light to hit their bodies just right, just to find that perfect moment to take a photo or as some kind of action to be able to share with you. It's nice to be able to get out into the woods and just breathe and relax for a little while. But when I encounter wildlife, it's something thrilling and exciting in a good way, usually, unless it's a snake. Then that's an issue. But yeah, that was so relaxing and fun just to pretend I'm a little green heron and witness all their behaviors. And look how pretty they are.
Did you catch something?
I love the little hairdos on these juvenile green herons and just how spunky they are. They're really fun to watch. And speaking of watching, if you made it this far, I would thank you so much. Leave a comment down below if you actually make it all the way to the end. I would really appreciate it if you would so kindly subscribe if you haven't already. Now click that like button if you have enjoyed this, and if so, I'll post a link to last year's Green Heron montage.
And right up there in the branches of the tree, the little gray ones, you see just a little bit of hint of red. That's the stripes on the neck of the little green heron. And the great blue heron is looking up at it right now. I haven't run back for my battery yet, but I thought this would be cool to film.
Sometimes in the early mornings I would walk out and find the green heron posing right there on the dock. So it was easy to get some nice, clean, good photos of him. And other times I'd walk around the pond and, see them up in the trees or the bushes. But there was one time I was walking around the far end of the pond, almost the opposite side from where I normally film, and one of them flew up into a tree, and then a second one came and tackled it, and Then they moved off to the next tree, and I look up and there's all four in the one tree right directly above me. So I got these pretty cool photos. Oh, they're coming up soon of that. It was pretty spectacular to be so close. And they didn't care that I was there. It was really neat. And then this will wrap up everything here. I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.